All right, we are recording. So, don't know how big this class is going to be. It could just be us three. More people could show up, but basically, just to give you guys a breakdown of how I would like to do the class, I've got some slides where I made some notes, so it might be a little bit easier for you guys if you want to take notes, so you guys can kind of see what I'm saying and stuff with the slides. But then once we get to the point where I want to talk about the tools that will help you connect and awaken your intuition, I'm going to give you guys some examples of what that looks like, of things that I've worked through personally. And then I would love to open up the floor to help anybody who's here with us kind of go through anything that they're feeling stuck with and apply what we're learning in today's class so that you guys can see how it works and experience how it works within yourself. If you guys are comfortable and open to having some hot seat coaching at the end of class. So that's kind of my plan. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to show my slides with you. Share my slides with you so you can maybe take notes a little bit easier if you want to do that. Give me just a second with getting these things pulled up. Wrong button. Let's see. Okay, so let's try to put this in a place where I'm going to be able to see my notes. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Everything sees good so far? Okay, cool. So today we are going to do an Awakening Intuition Roadmap to Trusting Your Inner Guide workshop. So I know so far the people here know me, but I'll go ahead and introduce for the people who might come in later or catch the replay. So my name is Heather, and I'm the founder of Soul Healer Institute, where I build courses and coaching programs for people who are ready to step into powerful leadership of their own lives. And I specialize in inner healing from toxic or traumatic experiences that cause individuals to feel limited and defined by their hardships. Along with this, I guide my students to learn how to shift from their identity to their essence, or in other words, their soul. So getting away from the ego, the false self, the opinions, and all of this stuff, the personality, the identity, and into their essence, into their truth of who they are, so that they can confidently co-create their soul-aligned reality with the universe. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So the thing about our intuition is it is always speaking to us. But the issue that comes along is, how do we trust in it? How do we know when it's our intuition speaking and not, something else or somebody else's voice telling us what to do, or society's programming, or whatever it is? How do we know the difference? How can we differentiate our intuition from all the other things that we're experiencing within our minds and our bodies? And how can we hear our intuitively messages more clearly going forward? So a lot of these questions I'm hoping will become a little bit more clear and more answered today. So the problem that is causing it to be so hard to connect or trust the intuition to begin with is because there is so much noise going on inside of the mind and the heart. So I know for me, when I'm not trusting myself, when I'm feeling confused, when I'm feeling like I don't know what's next, it's because there's so much emotional noise or mental noise happening, and I can't differentiate what direction I need to go in, or what part of myself to listen to, or what part of myself I need to trust. And a lot of this is coming from disempowering narratives that we gather along our way of life, from our failures, our mistakes, relationships with other people and how they think about us, how they treat us, what they say it to us, what they're projecting onto us, and we take and we accept for ourselves as true. And all of this stuff can really make a lot of noise and bog down our ability to think clearly or to make emotionally adjusted decisions. Is all of that making sense so far? I see you guys. If you guys want to give me a thumbs up. Okay. So some examples of this is if we are in situations where we're constantly wondering or worrying about if we are worthy or if we're good enough to have something or to experience something in our personal or even professional lives. Another example is wondering or worrying about our capability in making something you want to achieve happen or not. So believing if we are capable of doing it, or because I know for me, as somebody who is a manifestation mentor and guide, I know how crazy it can be to be setting goals, to be working towards a new reality, and delay after delay, or mountain after mountain pop up, and rejection after rejection. No, you can't do it this way. No, this way won't work. So every time you have this intuitive nudge, over time, when you're working towards that manifestation or that inner healing experience that you're wanting to have with yourself, and you're on that journey, but when these things keep popping up, it can be easy to spiral ourselves back into a place of self-doubt or pointlessness, or whatever it is, and it can start bringing up those subconscious stories from our past or from society or whatever it is that tend to start with statements such as, I struggle with this, I don't know if I can, I can't do that, I'm bad at that, and so on. And we start creating these narratives of what we're capable of, what's possible for us, especially when we meet those blocks in the road. And sometimes it can be really hard to those situations where you're being tested essentially by the universe, because obviously, like, our dreams are worth fighting for, and sometimes the things that are worth fighting for are not the easiest things to fight for. So when we are experiencing that, it can be super easy to get disconnected from our mission. It's so easy to get disconnected from that positive nurturing relationship to ourselves, where we're being gentle with ourselves and we're working really hard to have that good relationship where we can trust ourselves, right? So we've got to so going forward, whatever those narratives are that we are creating, that's creating noise in our minds and our hearts, needs to be addressed, processed, and worked through so that the narrative can shift, which will allow you to shift. Because if your energy is made up of your mindset, your thoughts, and your emotions, okay? All of these things are making up your energy. So the more confused and frustrated and all the things and all these narratives that are popping up saying you can't do it, or you're struggling with this, or it's not possible, or all of these things are pointless, the more this is coming up, the more your energy is going to feel chaotic. You're going to feel sluggish, brought down, and it's going to create that your reality essentially. And I'm very cautious whenever I speak about things that can get dogmatic, especially in spiritual concepts. It's so easy for teachers and me included, I've made this mistake myself along these past few years, but it's so easy to hear certain spiritual truths or universal laws and think that this is 100% true all of the time. And so a good example of that is we manifest our lives, or we create our reality based on what we're thinking and feeling. And there is so much truth to this. But what this can do is, if we get too dogmatic in that statement, what that happens is we start suppressing and rejecting our more negative thoughts. And the more we suppress those negative thoughts or those negative emotions or those emotions and thoughts that aren't in alignment with the reality you're trying to create, over time, this is going to build up, and it's going to come to a place, especially when you're working on your goals or working on achieving something. If you've been suppressing those negative thoughts, trying to think positively because you want to manifest positively, when you come to that delay or that roadblock getting in the way of your goal, you're going to crumble. You're going to crumble, and all of those negative things that you're not processing along the way, that you're not feeling, that you're not working through along the way, are going to come up, and it's going to feel very heavy, very overwhelming for you to continue to work towards your goals. And that's why it can be so easy for people to give up or walk away from their dreams. And that's why I believe, most of us in this society are not working towards our dreams. And it's because we don't know how to process these things and work through these resistances and these fears that are creating so much self doubt. So we can't hear our inner voice or our inner teacher enough to trust ourselves to just keep going through the mistake or the failure or the delay or what the rejection or whatever it is that is happening. Like I said, and the more you process those negative feelings or those fears or your resistance, instead of saying, oh, I'm manifesting, so I can't think this, I can't think about this fear right now, I can't think about this doubt right now, I can't think about this disempowering thing right now because I'm manifesting all the time, so this has to be ignored. I promise that's more detrimental to your connection to yourself and your intuition, and even your ability to be able to discern if what you are working who towards is even in the best benefit for you in your life anyways. So hopefully all of this is making sense so far. So the longer we allow the noise in our mind and heart to be dismissed, rejected, overlooked, the more our habits and days can get consumed with confusion, frustration, fear-based decision making, and rage-based reactions. The reality of this is when we get stuck in cycles of feeling stuck or unable to trust ourselves, this tends to be happening as a result of conscious or unconscious repetitive negative stories, like I've been talking about. And these disempowering narratives will create the feelings of self doubt. And without this being addressed, the symptoms of this are a lack of passion, motivation, direction, connection, appreciation, and feeling alive. I know that when I'm allowing, and I say allow because it really is ultimately a choice. Now, from my experience, it's a choice to allow yourself to go into these spirals. Now, I know that I say that lightly because sometimes when we're in those spirals, it definitely doesn't feel like a choice. And it definitely doesn't feel like something you can just snap out of. But I will say, from what I've learned over the years and what I teach, these tools are very powerful tools that can help you when you are stuck. Not meaning that sometimes it can take time. Sometimes, let's say you do the tools that you learned from today's class, and you don't feel better today, but you might feel better tomorrow. So sometimes it takes time to, when we process some things that we haven't processed, sometimes it can take a minute or a day or a week after processing to experience the results of it. But what it does is it creates a space within you, and hopefully you'll be able to see how and why, so that you can reconnect and get to a place where you feel motivated to be alive again. I know when I'm in those ruts and when I'm in those spirals, I, come from a very depressive background, somebody who can, and what I mean by that is somebody who easily can throw themselves into a depression or whatever, something that's making me feel like I can't do it, right? And I can fall back into that. But these tools, what these tools have done for me is they have allowed me to sometimes prevent myself from going into those spirals at all. And, or if shit hits the fan, because it does all the time. We're a human, we're alive, we're working towards things. So when shit hits the fan and I go into the panic, right? These tools are what save me every single time I come back to them. So I'm very passionate about helping people understand how to use these tools because I know that experiencing that lack of passion, that lack of motivation, that lack of direction, that lack of connection, and that lack of ability to be grateful for your life, right? Like, I don't know if you guys can resonate with that, but when you're in those mindsets, gratitude is a joke, in my opinion. Like, I can't even be grateful. There's no genuine gratitude or appreciation for shit when I'm here in this state. So I know in my heart of hearts that we have to have a process that we can trust to examine what's inside of us, inside of our hearts, inside of our minds, feeling into those emotions, feeling into those narratives, and being able to make a shift, a genuine shift, not just a, band-aid where you're going to feel good for a moment, but then it's never really actually dealt with, right? Such as the things that can happen whenever you're depending on like positive affirmations or just positive thinking instead of actually really being realistic about the fact that you are a human and we all have a dark side. We all have a lower self. We all have these inner demons and critics and ghosts and ghouls and whatever you want to call them, but we all have them. Rejecting them is only going to make it harder for us to work through the hard times. But when we embrace our lower self, when lows come up externally, so internally, right, as above, so as within, so without, right, the rule as within, so without. So as within, if we are fine and accepting of our lower self in the external world, when lower self shit comes up, we can handle it. We're not afraid of it. I mean, not saying that you're going to be perfect or that you're not going to feel scared or emotional, but you're going to have that, your intuition. So even while you might be reacting, your intuition is always right there. Your inner guide is always right there saying, this isn't real, and can pull you back down, get you out of your illusions, get you out of your spirals, get you out of all of those things. So that's why connecting to that intuition is so powerful. But I know for me, it's these tools that I want to share with you guys today that are the only reason it's possible for me to make that connection that I trust with myself. So let's understand intuition a little bit deeper. To me, intuition is our inner compass. Intuition is our channel to our higher or greater knowing of what is meant for us versus what is not. Intuition also acts as our inner guru or guide through life. A strong connection with your intuition can allow you to see and hear yourself and the world through new eyes and ears. Strong intuition for me is being able to have discernment for the truth of what is and has happened in my life without my ego being able to come in and confuse everything and get me off track and get me back into a place where I don't trust myself or other people or what I'm doing, right? And if anybody knows me well enough, or anybody, Lex might know this about me because she's actually in Soul Healer Institute with us. But the ego, even though the ego causes a lot of shit and struggle in our life, I still have a lot of respect and love for our egos because I do know that the ego is just trying to protect us, right? And the only way for the ego to protect us in the highest way is if we are connected to our own divinity, our own sovereignty. And what that means, and our connection to our divinity and our connection to our sovereignty is connected through that channel of intuition. At least from my understanding and how I would teach things, that's how I understand intuition and how it works for me. So I can have my ego here. That's what I was kind of explaining a second ago is my ego's over here bitching and complaining and reacting, but my intuition, that channel to my higher knowing or to my sovereignty, my divinity, the one that knows the truth about myself and everything else that's happening in this life, right? My ego can be reacting, but my intuition is strong. I can still hear her. They're living together. Does that make sense? So when we connect to that intuition, it's not like the ego disappears. It's just you have the intuition here to be able to filter through the ego's bullshit and drama. Does that make sense? Versus when you're not connected to that intuition and the ego shows up causing its drama, you'll believe it and you'll spiral and you'll go in and you'll let it be your sovereignty. You'll let it be the thing that's guiding you. That's why it's so important to have this experience where you can identify the difference in your ego, your identity, and your intuition, your essence, your divinity, your sovereignty, and being able to live in the world without being of the world or, I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. Being able to live in your shit without being without your shit consuming you, if that makes sense. So that's essentially what intuition is for me. So hopefully that is making sense for you guys so far. So how do we get there? The roadmap to trusting your inner guide is all about facing that noise that I was talking about in the beginning in your mind and your heart so that the waves can settle and clarity can begin to come to the surface. A relaxed, calm, peaceful energy is what needs to be created in order for you to be able to connect into your intuitive messages. When we are stressed, in chaos or confusion, there is no space, energetic space for you to connect to your higher guidance, because the only thing your mind and body will be able to focus on is surviving and doubling down on looking for ways to bring your levels back into balance. So maybe some of you guys have heard this, but when you're in a stress response, your digestive system shuts down. And this is much deeper than just digesting food. This is digesting life in general. When you are stressed, you can't digest what other people are doing, how other people are treating you, how the world is showing up, how you're showing up at work and people are not, and things are not working out. Whatever it is, whenever you are in that survival mode, you're not going to be able to digest anything that you want. Clarity is not going to be able to be present when you're in survival or when you're shut down. And one of the main, now, of course, there are some things in life that we can't control, but a big portion of the reason why so many people are constantly in a stress and survival state is because of that emotional and mental noise they're carrying, and they don't know how to process it or how to become more aware of it and work through it. And so, but so outside of the times that we can't control, when stuff happens that bring us into a stress or survival response, like losing family members or breakups or divorce, things like this, life transition, getting fired, all of those things are inevitably going to bring up our stress response. And it's supposed to, because that's actually healthy. It's healthy when stuff like that happens and our stress turns on, because now we're going into problem solving mode. We want to go into problem solving mode when we're experiencing turbulence in our life. But if we're creating our own turbulence and we feel like we're living in the stressful nights of a scary jungle just because of the way our mind and our body is, and there's no real threat or danger or turbulence happening, and we're kind of creating that drama within us, that's going to hold us back from moving forward, from getting anywhere we want to go when things are logically and realistically fine around you, meaning you're not really in any danger. The only danger you're in is the stress that your mind and your heart are causing because of all that noise. So, in order to get through, for us to create that space that I'm talking about and get to that relaxed energy, we need to be able to discern what our intuition is wanting us to know. And we will, sorry, I'm reading this. So anyways, I'm reading this backwards. But anyways, what we need to do to get where we need to go is we've got to face the noise head on. So in order for us to create the space and the relaxed energy, we need to be able to discern what our intuition is wanting us to know. We will have to bring awareness to that noise that is bogging us down and then take the steps to process it. So again, I'm so glad that a lot of you have joined me today. I really wanted to make this workshop an experience. So if you guys are comfortable with it, I want to talk a little bit about the process of clearing this noise, because this is the most important thing to do when you want to be able to trust yourself, especially in those moments of turbulence or life change, and you don't want to become consumed in the spiral or the fear, and you want to be able to trust yourself when things are good, but really trust yourself when things are not good. We've got to build an experience of bringing awareness to that noise that's bogging us down, causing confusion, causing frustration and chaos. And we need to be able to know how to clear that out. So I want to give you guys a few examples of what that is. And if any of you here today on class are willing and open to coming on with me, and we'll do kind of a hot seat coaching. And if I can do this with more than one person, I'm happy to do it. I have, it's almost 1. So I have until 2 o'clock, until right at 2 o'clock. I've got to hop off here and go get my kids. So, but I want to, like I said, this workshop, I really want to make it an experience for you guys. So I'm going to explain the tools. And then if any of you would like to work through something on this call together so you can experience the tools for yourself, and let everybody see how it works on, just anybody, because that's what I really want, is for you guys to see that. So if you guys have a journal or a blank piece of paper nearby, and it's something you guys can participate in right now. I would really love and encourage that. But if you are here catching the replay, or if you need to do it later, what I would like you to do is on that journal or piece of paper, I want you to write down some of the narratives or emotions that you've been experiencing recently that might be causing you to feel disconnected from your intuition, or that are keeping you from trusting yourself. So just think, obviously something has called you here to this class. So I am assuming that because you were called here, there's potentially something you might be trying to work through for yourself personally. Just think about maybe some of those emotions that might be bogging you down, or those narratives that might be bogging you down. And just go ahead and journal on that while I continue to explain some of this. So, facing the narratives. Narratives are the thoughts, the stories, and beliefs we are telling ourselves and storing into our conscious and subconscious minds that are creating the current experience of disconnection. So, the first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out what those narratives are. And again, thinking about, most of these narratives are going to start with something like, I struggle with this, I don't know how to do this, I can't do this isn't working for me, I'm not on the right track, I'm running out of time. Anything like that, where it makes you feel like you want to give up, or you want to crumble, or things are, the sky is falling, right? These narratives, or these fears, or these worries, or these ideas that are making you have that experience, okay, the sky is falling and I can't trust anything that's happening right now, right? And I'm going to give, and everybody's going to be very unique. So I am structuring this class based on a general idea, but that's another reason why I would love to call some people up if they're willing to volunteer, because this is a very wide subject of things, because everybody's got their own stuff going on. Heather, I see your hand is raised. Are you just wanting to volunteer whenever I'm ready for that, or do you have a question?
I was wanting to volunteer. I didn't know how you wanted to do it, so I just put my hand up.
That's perfect.
Okay, I've written down a couple of things for what you just said. Sorry, I took my thing off because I was choking. I didn't want to be on the screen choking, and I had to blow my nose for a second and stuff. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So what I have two written down. So do you want me to go on now?
Yeah, I think we're good to go on now. We
Okay.
can go ahead and do it. And I'll
so I have two things. One, I absolutely love your podcasts, and I trust in you, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be here today. I like you know me, the others don't. I have been very intuitive since I was small. I could clear my mind when I was small, and I can't do that well now that I'm older, and there's so much crap, and I've been through a lot of crap in my life.
Yeah.
You personally know, the others don't. Like, there's physical impairments. I've been in abusive relationships. Like, I've lived life. I don't think I'm as young as everybody else here, but and what I find is that I want to find my inner voice, and I think that I really don't trust. I don't trust people as much anymore, but I don't trust myself, because I don't want to get emotional because I am really tired. So I get emotional when I'm tired, but I don't trust my intuition, because there's been so many errors made. And really, like, I broke both my shoulders, and that was a mismanifestation. You have to watch how you manifest things. I wanted a change and a move. I was really angry when I was manifesting, which is not a good thing, because I wanted the change and the move. That very day, the universe answered. It does not have a sense of humor. It completely answered me. I flipped forward, fell straight onto my head with my arms out straight, broke both my shoulders. Like, you can't even toilet yourself when you, and it severed the muscles in my upper. Okay. I had to live with my daughter for 6 weeks because I couldn't be at home. And so there was my move and there was my change. And I still, it's 5 years later, and I can't cook because my left shoulder is not in place. Like, it's been a life changing thing. And prior to this, I was already disabled. Now and it's like, so I sit there and it's like, pardon my language, but it's like, I really fucked myself.
Yeah.
Right. And in doing this, then it's like, how am I to trust my intuition? And then how are other people to trust my intuition? Like I can see so much for other people, right? I can literally, like, I go in these Zoom meetings, I can look at people and it's like, oh, do they know this? Like things just flash at me. I'm such an empath. I can feel things, I can see it and everything. But because I have so many things with me, they're like, I feel that people look at me and are judgy. Like, I have been totally judged by people. Like, I got sick when I was 24, and I just had my daughter. I woke up the next day, bent over, arms locked. They didn't know what was wrong. I look at it now like maybe it was hormonal and they just bombarded me with all this medication and really screwed me up. I don't know. Right. But I literally had people walk behind me and go, why would that woman have a child? Like, she shouldn't, like, and I mean, we're talking so many times because I was so young. By the time I got home, I'm in tears. Like, the judgment of people has been so hard. And I have trouble, like, okay, so my sister takes the healing course, and I'm like, okay, so heal me. She's like, well, I find that the person needs to want to be healed. Why would I not want to be healed?
Yeah.
Like, and I've taken my NLP course. I have tools myself but I find I can't work on myself. This is why I was like, you took the healing course, you try and heal me. And she's like, you need to heal from within, you need to let go. It's like, well, pardon my language, but like, how the hell do you let go? Like, it's
exactly.
like, I'm meditating. I'm doing all these tools. And it's like, okay, so I was like, so I came on today kind of like, yes, what can Heather do for me?
I'm so glad you're here because your friend is right, your sister or whatever, whoever's taking the healing course, she's right. The healing has to come from the individual. It has to come from within. But you are exactly right. We are not taught how to go within, how to do the healing at our jobs, at school. Yeah. We're not taught these things, and because it can be very complex and it's so unique for the individual to go through. But the word that just kept screaming to me as you were talking, and hopefully this isn't triggering, but it can be, is forgiveness. Yeah. I'm feeling a lot of your noise that you're experiencing right now, this mental and emotional noise that you're sharing with me. I'm feeling a lot of it, a good place for you to start. And like I said, and I want to be very clear when I say this, a good place to start is forgiveness, but it's not the whole thing, right? So on my slide, talking about narratives, there's really two ways to think about this stuff, okay? So I work with people who are kind of new to the healing and spiritual space. And then I also work with some people who've been in it for a while, who have tools kind of like you, who have taken other classes, but aren't getting certain results, right? So a little bit more people who are a little bit more advanced as well. So you've got to look at that noise and these narratives in one of two ways. Is there healing that needs to occur? Is this noise coming from a place that needs forgiveness, that needs love, that needs nurturing, that needs reparenting, that needs all of this stuff? And I feel like a good portion, especially if you still don't feel confident in how to go within, I definitely feel like some of your noise is going to require that healing approach. But I do believe, and this is just from knowing you and intuitively speaking here, I do believe that once that those wires of how to connect and how to create those experiences of healing for yourself, once that connects, I mean, I just feel it snapping into place for you. And I'm not trying to say you're not going to have struggles or issues, but I do just have a sense that once those wires start to click for you on how to go within and create that experience, things are going to start. You're like I was saying earlier, those new eyes, your intuition, you're going to be able to be like, oh yeah, that feeling, the new eyes, the new ears, and all of that. And again, those things, just keeping in mind for all of you here, I love being honest about this journey. And just so let's say Heather learns these tools and she has that experience that I'm talking about, had that experience that I'm talking about, but I still have to maintain. They're still
Yeah.
maintaining. I've had that experience. Maybe you've had that experience before, but it's gone right now, right? Like, or it comes and it goes, and maybe it's because you don't have a solid foundation to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I believe the things that I teach are a solid foundation, at least for my people like me and on a similar journey to me. It is a solid foundation. So when you go through those ebbs and flows of trusting yourself, not trusting yourself, trusting yourself, you
Yeah.
have something to, you're confident in what to do. So for you, the best way to do the inner healing work is going to be through, if it's a narrative, for example.
Okay. Now I have a question.
Okay.
Do you think now this has just been because everybody's like you're in the place you're supposed to be,
Mhm.
right? And oftentimes the my being hurt, my incapacities, I think are some life lessons for the people around me. I know it sounds weird, but it's like I'm the vessel to show them certain things,
Yep.
that they're capable of doing it. I didn't have to do it all in the first place. Like it's not just lessons for me, it's lessons for them. So I'm wondering if the healing doesn't take place because they didn't learn the lesson as well. Like it's not just my lesson, it's their lesson
So
as well.
I love that you're asking this question. This is a really good question. Something that is very important to know, coming back to sovereignty, coming back into divinity, okay? No one, and I mean no one, has power over you. Not power over your manifestations, not power over your healing. You are the creator. You are source. You are
Yeah.
the source of everything. That is, you are rendering everything you are experiencing. And so is Lex. And
So
so is
in my letting go, I need to let go of the fact that they're learning a lesson.
so in forgiveness. So I love the 7 levels of energy. I refer to this in my courses and when I talk about forgiveness because it's a really good way to understand shifting your energy. So the 7 levels of energy. Okay, so let me kind of back up just a little bit here. So you wondering if that person is going to learn their lesson from whatever you've brought to the table is irrelevant to you and your work. Because yes, you are going to make mistakes. I've made a post about this, a few weeks ago, actually. You're going to be the villain in somebody's story. You're going to
Yeah.
be the trauma causer in somebody's story. You're going to be
Oh,
the
and
drama.
I sure am. There's a lot of people.
And that's okay. Your only job here now going forward is not to worry about how they're handling what you've done, right?
Yeah.
It's to forgive yourself for what you've done if you need to, right? Like if you're holding on
Yeah.
to guilt or shame about it.
Well, I'm trained in Ho'oponopono. So
Okay. I'm
those
glad you
four
said that.
things are.
I'm glad you said that. And I love Ho'oponopono. I do. And I think it's amazing. But I have a little bit of I don't know what to call it, but because I love it. I love stuff like that. But I also don't think that it is deep enough. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's so straightforward. It's so cut and
it's
dry.
so surface level.
There's a whole big realm to forgiveness.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono, that prayer, which is I love you, I forgive
I'm
you, or
sorry.
something
Please forgive me and thank you.
and it's just it's a simple little prayer and it's a beautiful thing and I think it's a helpful thing
Yeah.
after you've already done the deep work and it's
Yeah.
something that you use to maybe maintain it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Because again, I love positive affirmations. I love subconscious programming, meditations and whatnot. And I'm so sorry, I keep itching my nose. But I love all of that stuff. But I promise you right
Sorry,
now,
I'm just passing that on to you with my nose.
oh no, I'm always, for some reason, when I like get into like teaching mode, my face sometimes gets hot and then my nose
Yep.
gets itchy and I just like have to itch my nose and I'm just like, I don't know why. But yes, things like affirmations, things like those meditations and subconscious programming and subliminal messages, I love them. I think they're great. I think they're awesome. But if you've not done the inner work, they're
But
going to.
this is the whole thing, is how to connect with your intuition, your inner self. Like when they say, like, you know, what is your soul purpose? It's like, what is my soul purpose? Is my ego taking over and telling me
Exactly.
that this is
Exactly.
what I want to do? Like, I have so, you know me, I have so many different avenues that I'm involved in, that, like, you know, I was one of these, like, you know, multiple course takers, took every course known to man, because I figured that if I stumbled upon the course, finally I would, you know, have a breakthrough. Now I've had a ton of miracles. Like, don't get me wrong. I have been healed from a wheelchair before. Like, it's not like I've never had that. Then I was hearing the other day, somebody said, well, there's only so many with, you know, with your karmic debt that you have and stuff, you know, then you only get so many of those. And then it was
So,
like, oh gee, maybe I've used my 9 lives. And
so I am I'm probably a pretty controversial spiritual teacher. Um, because I do lean in heavier on the matrix side of
yeah.
things, the way, you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
And
so do you believe that you can quantum jump and heal yourself?
do I time jump? Is that what you said?
Quantum, quantum jumping. They say that you can
So,
quantum jump and then heal yourself or teach yourself things and stuff like this. And I'm like, okay, so how do we get to that quantum realm for that healing now?
so what I think is these spiritual gurus have created a lot of pretty words that sound really awesome and they sound sexy and they sound enticing because they sound instantaneous. And what
Yeah.
better than instant gratification? Here's the thing. I believe
Hey,
from my
I'm telling you,
experience.
that manifestation was pretty instant. Oh no, the phone's ringing and I'm losing my connection.
We'll give her a second to come back. But what I wanted, what I was going to finish saying, that we were talking about, me and Heather, but is when we have those affirmations and those things that people are always suggesting, those quantum leaps and these subconscious subliminal messages and all these things that you hear about. Like I said, I have no hate for them. I think they're cool and I enjoy them and I think they are beneficial in a good way. But without that underlying work, it's almost like all of those affirmations and all of that positive that you're trying to feed your mind is going to go in one ear and right out the other because you haven't opened up the wound that is causing you to feel like you need to hear those affirmations to begin with. So when you open up that wound and you take ownership of that wound and you go within, whether it's a narrative or it's an emotion,
I,
whatever it is.
I got disconnected because my phone rang. I don't.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. I'm glad you're back, Heather. Yeah, I was just making a point while you were while you were gone. Just saying, like, without opening that inner wound of whatever is causing the drama, right? Whatever's causing the talk, the feelings and all these things, the bullshit, right? Whatever's causing it, if you don't open it and you go turn on that subliminal message or you start ho'oponoponoing or whatever you're doing, it's gonna go in one ear and out the other because it's not going into that inner realm. And for me, the inner realm is the quantum realm. And quantum to me just means now I am a firm believer in instantaneous manifestations and miracles, and I definitely think they can happen. They've happened to me, and I've seen them. I definitely don't believe that there is a limit to them, and I don't believe that they're based on some sort of karmic debt. Like I said, people, I think it's really cool that people come up with these concepts and stuff. But for me as a spiritual teacher, I go deep, but I keep it simple. I'll be honest. I keep things very simple. I'm not going to throw a bunch of weird, crazy terms at you. Because I do think the spiritual concept is simple. I think it's simple, and I think the more connected you are to yourself, the more connected you are to your sovereignty and your divinity. And if you know how to connect to yourself, you don't need to worry about karmic debts, or if you've actually if you for some reason are feeling your dark side today, oh God, am I manifesting this? Like, I think people have put too much dogma, too much limitations on the spiritual world, saying something like that. Oh, you only get so many miracles. You cannot limit the universe like that. I'm sorry. That is just my personal, I've seen that my entire life in religions and different spaces, and they try to limit the universe to this one thing and say, this is the way, the only way, and you only get this. This is it. I call BS. I called BS at my Baptist church when I was 12 years old. Okay. I said, no way. And I'm still doing that today. I consider myself a spiritual leader, but I believe spirituality is the connection to yourself, because I do believe we are the creators here. Because from my own experience, I know it to be true. I'm delusional in the fact that it's true that I create my own experience, because when I'm spiraling in my noise, my reality is crumbling. Because guess what? I am disrespecting source. I am disrespecting the creator. Who's the creator? Me. So when I'm saying you suck, you're not going to make it, you can't do it, those judgments are true about you. When all of that stuff starts coming up and starts happening, what's going to happen there is you're disrespecting source, right? So when source is being disrespected, guess what? The reality is crumbling. Everything. Now the reality looks like hell, right? Now we're in hell. Now we're in the devil's territory, so to speak. And it's because we're beating ourselves up. But when we're lifting ourselves up, and when we're not only lifting ourselves up and trying to say we're not allowed to feel negative, but when we look at that negative, and we say, I love you, I'm sorry you feel this way. And this, what I'm explaining to you right now, this is the process of the inner work. It's taking this time. And sometimes in the beginning, it's much easier to do it when you're being held through it, because it's overwhelming. The first time, the example that I wanted to use it for the emotional noise is disappointment, because disappointment is a strong one that can create a lot of self-doubt and a lot of lack of willpower when we have that disappointment wound. So an example of going in, and you can do this with narratives, you can do this with emotions, whatever it is, it's looking at it for what it is, right? So we've got disappointment here. So what we're going to do is we're going to think and maybe characterize this disappointment. And I love to use the referral to the Inside Out kid movie, the movie Inside Out, where it's the little girl and she has her emotions inside of her. So kind of imagining you're like that, and all of your emotions and all of your noises they're like little people running around in your brain, and they have a job to do inside, and they're running around trying to protect you, they're trying to help you grow, they're trying to do this. But when you don't trust them, and you don't have a process to connect to them, the noise can get too loud. So to connect with them, so let's use the example of disappointment, that disappointment wound. What we have to do is we have to come in and we have to say, imagine you have a child, or imagine there's a friend, and they've been hurt very badly, emotionally speaking, and they come to you. What are you going to do? You are going to say, what happened? You're going to be attentive to them. You're going to listen to them. You're going to attempt to create a space for them that is nurturing, and a place where you're listening to them and you're feeling into their energy, and you're giving your energy back to them so that it can be healing, right? You can do this Same exact thing that you would do for other people for yourself. So when those things are coming up for you, right? All those things that you wrote down on your paper. The best thing you can do, if it's a thought or if it's a belief, you've got to ask, is it true? Is this true? And it could be theoretically true depending on the thought. If it's a thought of the future, right? If it's a future worry, then we don't know if it's true. And it's only as true as we're making it, right? So if it's future worries, those can be a little bit easier. But if it's something that is stemming from a wound, kind of like you're describing in your experience, Heather, what you've got to go in and do is you've got to find that part of you that was wounded by it, right? So it might be your disappointment emotion. It might be your inner child. It might be however old, let's say when you had, for example, when you mentioned the judgment that you feel is still stored inside of you from when you had your baby. So however old you were, like postpartum Heather might need you to go in and say, hey, those people judged you, but I love you. Those people judged you, but I love you. And it's what it is, it's going into a meditation state of being. And it's not necessarily a guided meditation. I guide my clients and students through this multiple times so that they can build an experience for themselves with it. And whatever, but anybody can do this. This is not something special. So, or I mean, it's special, but it's something that anybody can do, is what I mean by that. So if you can, what I like to do to make it easier in workshops like this. So, for example, let's say sadness. Let's say we need to deal with sadness. We will draw a character for sadness. Or for me, when I was a wound that I had to heal that was a pretty deep wound for me was abandonment. So I imagined myself and what I look like and feel like when I'm abandonment, when I'm feeling abandonment. And whenever I go into that abandonment wound. So what that was for me, when I closed my eyes and I said, where's the part of me that feels abandoned? And in my mind, I popped up and I'm sitting in the fetal position crying. And I'm like very upset and I'm very distraught. And I'm sitting and so here I am as the observer. I'm observing my abandonment. So that's another key. When you go to do the inner healing work, there's going to be two parts of you. Okay. There's going to be your observer, and there's going to be the part of you that you want to work through and process. Okay. So when you go into this observer place and you see yourself feeling abandoned, right? For my example, and I go into basically what would I do if I saw a friend or my child sitting in this position feeling abandoned, right? What am I going to do for them? I did that for myself in my mind, and I've got my eyes closed the whole time I'm sitting here. And now here's the other thing. When you're doing this meditation, you with time, you can, and from what I experience is you're the observer, but you're also the abandonment. So while the observer is observing the abandonment and saying, hey, what do you need from me? I'm here for you. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to get to you. But now that I know I can just close my eyes and call you up, I know how to get to you now. I'm here. Sometimes it takes time. My abandonment, I had to do that meditation 3 times. I remember the first time I did that meditation in my abandonment wouldn't talk to me. She's like, fuck you. I could feel her energy, but I knew where it was coming from intuitively, right? So I'm there observing it, and intuitively I know she's pissed. I haven't talked to her. I've been rejecting her. I'm the source of my abandonment, right? And I'm blaming everybody else. And I knew it from that was insight enough just looking at her, even though she wouldn't talk to me. But then I kept going back. I said, okay, I have to come back. I said, all right, I'll be back. And then the next time I felt like doing it, I closed my eyes and I called abandonment up. And I like to do it in bed at night. So I'll talk to my emotions, or I'll talk to these narratives that are going on, right? And so I called abandonment up a few more times. And by the third time or whatever that I called it up, she's moving, she's trusting me more. And now all of a sudden, those narratives of loneliness, of rejection, of not being wanted, all of those narratives that were bogging me down, kind of making me hate myself and struggle within myself, all of those narratives were able to start to fall away. And I wasn't believing those stories anymore because now I dealt not dealt, but like I went in and I addressed the sources, the root causes of the reasons why I talk like I'm feeling this way about myself and not trusting myself and feeling disconnected. Does that make sense? And I know you've got some stuff in the chat there, Heather. So if you want to unmute yourself, you can talk again.
I I've done a lot of that. I'm going to do it your way to see if I can reach it that way as well. What I get from my intuition is a lot of like I was brought up to sit and look pretty. Like don't talk, sit, look pretty. And then I found that when I got to be, late teens to early 20s, I had a voice, and I'm very, I don't want to say as much as Gloria Steinem, but I'm very much that women are equal to men. Like, I know we're not maybe as strong and stuff like that. I'm talking about, I feel that why should a man be a stud and a woman's a slut just because we like sex? The same, like that, as simple example as that.
Right.
Anyway, so I think that this is going to sound really bizarre, but I think that I bring my illness upon myself. Like I have dislocations. I now hunch over. I can't seem to straighten up. And I really want to straighten up because, within me, there's that, I want to be like everyone else. But if I'm like everyone else and people perceive me as really beautiful and pretty and that, they don't take me seriously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
if I've made myself look to be the old hag, like I've actually had people say, okay, I'll show you my hand. Well, this one doesn't want to lift anymore. It's decided that it's just going to be a little paw. And this one here is the dislocation and bent finger. Okay. I've actually had people say to me, this was when my kids were smaller, you go to school and read stories to children. Don't they run and scream when they see you? And it's like, when my son was born, I had a picture, okay, with him in his baby tub. I'm holding him, giving him a bath. I thought it was a really cute picture. Now, he was a preemie, so you can imagine like the look of him and my hands, right?
Yeah.
My girlfriend looked at it and said, "Oh God, look at your hand. It looks like an alien." I'm actually not friends with her anymore, but not because of that. there was other factors afterwards. But just simple examples of that, which are hurtful.
Yeah.
But when I have gone internally and looked at it, I sat there and I thought, well, because I am manifesting this, I am doing this. I need to reverse it. It's gotten to the point where it's like, yes, I firmly believe it's reversible. I always have.
Yeah.
Even when the doctors were bombarding me with medication, I said to the doctor, like, I'll be the first person that you've ever seen walk out of here and be well.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, oh no, you don't get rid of this. I'm just like, no, I cancel that. I don't give that to my unconscious. I'm not taking that because what I tend to absorb a lot. And I wasn't grounded for a long period of time. And so empathically, I could pick up everything from around me. When I lived in an apartment, it was terrible because everybody in the apartment building, I was picking up all their energies. If somebody had gout in their foot, I wouldn't be able to walk. I couldn't see it. Right. But I literally.
I want to speak to what you were saying there, because I'm right there with you. I believe that we can cure the incurable and do amazing, miraculous things and reverse different things or whatever. And I definitely support you in your dream of doing that because I'm right there with you. I believe in it. The thing that I want to caution
And listen, Heather, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be.
And I get that. No,
you know what I mean? But
yes, the thing I want to caution here, the thing is the healing is not it's so hard to understand these different things because the ego is so tethered to our divinity, right?
Yeah.
So there's a small line between you really surrendering your healing to the divine and your ego trying to take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Now,
So
so
what is intuition and what is ego? That's where I'm like, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. Like, where is
yeah.
my,
So
how am I trusting my intuition in this? Or is my ego saying we could do this? Do you know what I mean?
so for me, it takes time. Okay. So here's the thing, just from me, as an experienced person in deciphering these things, your intuition is the part of you that knows it's possible, and your ego is the part of you pushing you to do it. Okay. Because the universe does have a sense of humor in some things. And from my understanding, how things work in the terms of instantaneous healings, manifesting, and all these miracles that people are talking about, the big theme in that is the art of surrendering. Okay. So if your ego, right, or if there's any part of you coming up saying, we've got to make that happen, that is a good indication that it is ego. Okay. So
Okay.
ego is going to be the one that it's going to the way you differentiate it is ego moves a little bit more impulsively or a little bit more dramatically, and intuition moves calmly and has no intentions of you rushing anything. Does that
Because
make
it
sense?
has no concept of time.
Right. Ego, exactly. There is no
Yeah.
time for the intuition. The intuition knows no bounds, and
And
it is
this is where I fall into the darkness. Ego gets involved, and then I get lost in the darkness because oh, that's
yes.
so much time has passed. So much time has
So
passed, and I'm running
exactly.
out of time.
So
You know,
that's what I'm speaking to here at this class. The differentiating factor. How do you know if it's intuition versus everything else? Okay. Intuition is slow. Intuition is intentional. Intuition is bigger picture. Intuition is not money driven. Intuition is not any physical, it's not physically driven. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So if you're aware, because right now what I'm hearing is you're aware of your intuition, because I hear you. Your intuition sends you these little messages that make you who you are, but it drives your ego to push and push and push and rush and whatever because it's scared, you know? So
So you don't think the ego is holding it down? You think the
um,
ego is pushing it along?
I think the ego has good intentions. I think the ego is full of good intentions of wanting to protect the individual, of wanting the individual to be motivated to move forward. I do think it has its place. So it's kind of a balancing game of you and your ego, your intuition and your ego have to begin to work together. And through these processes, so that's what I was going to say second. So with narratives, if you've already done that healing work, if you've already gone in and you've internalized it and you've reflected on it and you've talked to your inner child about it and you've helped your inner child feel better about it, and you truly believe that you've felt the shift, but it just kind of keeps coming up, that's a little bit more advanced now. So, but what's funny is even though it's more advanced, it's simpler. Okay. I'll tell you it's simpler because in the advanced stages of this, once you've already done that internalizing, once you've done the forgiveness, once you've allowed your inner child to see things differently and you've made that shift, and you can and like you will know if you've done that, you know what I'm saying? And it sounds like
Yeah.
you've it sounds like you've done a lot of that, and you feel like you've had similar experiences to what I'm explaining there. So for me, some of your stuff could just be your illusions that you're allowing. And so now that you've created these foundations, you've gone in, you've done the loving, nurturing inner child work. you've faced those emotions and processed them. The next thing to do is now your intuition now that you trust your intuition, right? Because you've processed this noise. And because so what I'm hearing from you is you trust your intuition, but you don't know how to shut your ego up in a healthy way to let your intuition lead, right? Is that right? So once you get to this stage and you have a healthy relationship to your dark side is important here, because you're not going to be able to do this in a way that is supportive to you. So when the dark side comes up and you have your intuitions knowing, so something that can be helpful too is connecting back into a peaceful state, like going into a meditation and just kind of I don't know if you've ever tried scrying before, but scrying is just kind of where you can use it for channeling your own higher self or other spirits or deities or whatever. I really love doing it. You know, I connect to my parents that way sometimes if I need to or whatever. But for myself, I can just kind of go in and quiet my mind. You know, I might draw little circles on the paper and get myself kind of into this relaxed state of being. And just kind of think like, what does my intuition want me to know? Right. And then we get those messages from the intuition. Now, going
Is
forward,
scrying where you write things? I'm sorry to interrupt. Is scrying where you write? Okay. I had that when I was a teenager, and like I was totally in almost like a trance state because I was exhausted and
yeah.
I had the pen in my hand. I was actually in class. And when I came to, I'd written out of control.
Mm. So intuition can be a tricky journey to navigate. But things to keep in mind, especially like if you feel confident that there's not really anything to internalize or process or um heal, essentially, right? If you feel like you've already done that in some of your noise, you've already faced it, you've already done it, you've already acknowledged it, all of those things, right? The next thing to do is simply realize this is when you are moving from old Heather to new Heather. So we're old world to new world. Okay. So once you do the healing and the processing and the internalizing and the shifting on that end, the next thing is there's a process in which you have to now, I'm not going to listen to these lies. So again, remembering the fine line, we're not suppressing anything negative. We want to make sure we feel it, we acknowledge it, we embrace it, and we say, okay, this is here, but this isn't mine. That's old world Heather. That's old Heather, because old Heather needed that to survive, but new Heather does not need that to survive. So the process, once you've done that healing work to maintain your connection to your intuition and your focus on your goals and your truth, is I'm not going to listen to this. Too much time has passed, or whatever the story is, right? I've already done the work to go in and accept where I'm at and who I am. I'm not listening to this. So essentially, coming back into my slide that we were last on, when you have these narratives or a story that is making you identify in a lesser version of you or an old version of you that is whatever, right? Like the disability narratives. You're not disabled. Not now, don't get me wrong. I understand that there's issues. I'm not saying that there's not issues, but leaning into this identity of being disabled just because there are some
Yeah,
issues.
I've started saying physical limitations instead of saying disabled because I find that then you know it's a limitation right now. It's not something that can't be processed. Do you know what I
So,
mean? Rather than
yes.
saying, what I find the problem is I get a lot of people that come up to me and they speak slowly and loudly because they think that it's a mental problem
Mm,
because of the fact that I have physical limitations, and I
right.
find it really frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
No.
actually have people that tell me I just need to tell them to screw off, but it's like they mean well. Like some, well, some don't, but most people mean well,
Yeah.
right?
So what I'm hearing is the work for you, the new world that if, for example, me and you were to work together in a more long-term capacity that I think would suggest for you to be focused on is standing in a place where what other people are saying and doing are not affecting you.
That's it.
And and you're in a place where you're confident in whatever is kind of going on for you. Now, and I know that this is possible because I remember when I first got my coaching certification, I went into this event and there was a young man who came on and he had no arms and no legs.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah.
And he's a champion athlete.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the work, once you've done the forgiveness work, once you've gone in and you've internalized, and here's the thing, things might come up. You might feel like you need to go into that. But ultimately, the first, and I've heard this in spiritual teachings, and I like it. I think it's cool. Again, I'm not going to place dogma on anything or say that it's a fact, but I like this concept that the first phase of our lives, we are meant to forget how powerful we are. We are meant to forget who we are, what we are, where we come from, what matters, all of these things. We're meant to forget that. And we're meant to actually experience things that limit us more and more and more and more until we reach a breaking point. If we reach, right? Not everybody will, right? For those who are meant to go on this spiritual awakening journey or whatever, they reach a breaking point and they do that inner healing work where they face those demons. They face all of those issues head on. And it sounds like you've done a lot of that work, right?
So they can remember themselves.
So they can remember themselves. So they can remember, oh, this disappointment wound isn't my enemy. It's a little part of me that needs my love. And whenever I love it, it's less disappointed. And therefore, nothing can really disappoint it. And that's not, again, words can be tricky because when I say nothing or always or never, that's dogma. And you want to dismiss that a little bit because it's not always true. But for the most part, as within, so without. If you know how to handle disappointment within, nothing externally is going to really be able to do that to you. So when you're going into new world transitions, which is where you're at, or at least I can feel you're on the cusp of it, or like you're in the middle, the messy middle of the new world. Okay. And this is a lot where people on the inner healing journey can get stuck. And that's why I created my more advanced trainings too. Once you get here, most of your shit and drama that's coming up is pointed in what you are capable of doing in the future. People who need inner healing are living a little bit more in the past, but people who have already kind of faced their past and are ready to create a new future for themselves or their dream future that they keep seeing and feeling as possible for themselves. Now we have to be a whole new person. We have to be, in order to have this new experience that we've never had before, we have to be a whole new person that we've never been before. And all those narratives and all those noises, they were beneficial to us in phase one of our lives when we were limited beings and didn't know who we were. Well, now we know who we are, but we're still playing the game of this limited being, right? Does that make sense? So once we know who we are, we have to make a conscious choice every single day to no longer play the game of the limited being. Okay. So what that means is anything that is still lingering from that old limiting being, you write that down and you say, is it true? Is it true that I will never be successful in my career? Is it true because of my limitations or this old, is it, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is it really true? And then you want to ask yourself, because you get to choose. Here's the fun part. You get to choose if it's true. How will you feel if you continue to hold on to your limited being, how will you feel?
Okay,
Is it
so I
true?
have a question here. I have a question, Heather.
Okay.
Say we ask ourselves, is it true? The answer comes up, yes, it is, or no, it's not. Is it the ego or is it intuition telling us? Like,
So
even you're calm while you're asking yourself that, and there's no.
so there's more to this process.
Oh,
Because I in the inner healing space, we want to look at it from both angles. And then we also want to accept it at both angles. But when we have already done that, right?
yeah.
Yes, let's say yes, it is true. You're a piece of shit, right? You're worthless. Yeah, it's true. Guess what? Now your power, that's power. I'm telling you right now, facing resistance or facing your bullshit as, yep, it's true. Okay, it's true. Well, where do we go from here, right? There's only one place to go, and that's up.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's absolutely no problem in the ego trying to say, yeah, it is true. It is true. You suck, like say, okay, I do suck. All right. Well, what's next?
I
Well,
have a I
little
have a
voice.
total vision of what is to be,
Yeah.
and no concept of how that's occurring or when or how that shift would occur or anything like that. But it's completely like, and I don't think that's an ego vision. I mean, I did a vision board and stuff like that, but then like going within, I have like where I'm at. I have everything that in place, the tranquility, like the total feeling of what it's like to be there and everything. And so it's like, how you were talking about like the shift of this Heather here and this Heather over here.
Right.
It's like the vision is this Heather over here.
Yes.
You know what I like? So
So
I'm
here's
like,
the thing. Once you have done the work, once you have done the limited being work, right? The healing work of the limiting being, and you know the truth. You know the truth of your divinity, right? Okay, so what if it's true that you are this limiting being with all this crap? How are you going to feel, right? When you ask that question, okay, so like for example, a narrative, what if my business fails, right? This what if, right? What if my
yeah,
business fails? Okay. This is a future thing. Okay. So there is no, yeah, this is true. So what if this is true? Or what if it's true that this happens, right? Or what if this is the truth, that this is inevitably where I'm headed, right? This is how I'm going to feel. I'm going to feel pointless. I'm going to feel devastated. I'm going to feel whatever. What if the opposite is true? Okay. My business will thrive. I'm going to feel motivated to show up and this, that, and the other thing. So when you think about these two narratives and you think about how they're physiologically affecting you, when you're shifting, when you want to make that quantum shift into the new world, and when I say quantum, again, take me lightly, this can take time. It doesn't mean instantaneous. It can be,
yeah,
sure. But quantum shifting into a new reality is going to require you to use your discernment and say, I don't have to listen to these narratives that are telling me my relationship's going to fail, my business is going to fail, I'm not going to be successful, I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough. I've already faced all the demons. So now it is time for me to say, no, this isn't my truth and this isn't my fate. I'm not destined here. I'm not going to allow myself to continue to focus on narratives that are going to spiral me. So you would say, now what if the opposite is true and my business is thriving? I'm going to feel this way and this way and this way. And I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm going to show up and behave this way. Guess what? When you face those limitations and you've come up with, this is how I will feel if what I want to be true is true. And this is how I will show up. That's your plan of action. Every
yeah,
day, every day, you have to stand in that statement of, you see which ones your reality, you see what your reality is going to look like if you choose to continue playing on one or the other. You choose which one you want because that's your divine right. And you choose to focus on it. And then of course along the way, if you face struggles that bring up the old limitations, because they're not going to disappear, right? Even though you're in new world, you now are aware. Old world, new world. I'm living in new world, and old world is just something that helped me get here. So we don't hate the old world. We're not dissing it. We're not rejecting it, but we're looking at it for the truth of what it is. This is old stuff. I'm not here anymore. I've already dealt with this. We already know this. We're here now. And that's where it can be, really helpful to have a mentor and stuff, but really just getting to a place where you're mastering the art of discerning what do you want to be true over what you think is what could potentially be true. Does that make sense? We worry too much about the potential possibilities instead of putting all of our focus and energy onto the possibility or potential place that we want to go. So I hope that that's helping. I've only got a few more minutes here, so I want to ask Lex if there's anything that I can help you with. I know we're
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I watched the solar plexus video earlier today. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. And I thought that was really helpful because it, all about the will and all that stuff. It was great build up to this workshop actually. And I really thought a lot today about how like my ego, I adjusted that to just being my past self in general, and that like cleared up so much of my mental extraness. I have a really big imagination. So like that helped me a lot. And then I also decided that my intuition, that's my future self. So like, cause I came across this coach that actually specializes in like projections, like your individual projection.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just extremely helpful to be like, all right, I'm going to live in my emotional matter for today instead of like letting my mind wander far into the future or far into the past. So
yeah,
but I don't know if I have any questions right now.
no, that's perfect.
I really
That's
enjoyed
good.
class today.
Okay, good. I know I can only do so much, in an hour and a half and stuff, but I really hope that this was insightful, was helpful, and gave you guys some things to think about. Really just the main thing that I want you guys to take away from this is just recognizing that your energy is your roadmap to everything. So if you want to shift your energy, the best way to do that is to dissect what's causing your energy to be the way that it is right now. What are the emotions that you're experiencing? What are the thoughts that are coming up? What are the worries? What are the what ifs? What is the noise? And then using your discernment after this class to decide, is this something that I need to sit in forgiveness with? Is this something I need to sit in and reparent? Is this something I need to sit in and give love to? Or is this something that I've already processed and I already have the answers? I've already done the perspective shift, and it's just this old thing that wants to, is trying to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So this old thing just trying to come up, and it just kind of needs to be okay. It's your test now. It turns into your test. And it's like, okay, all right, I love you, right? I love you. We're somewhere else now though. And here's the thing, just a reminder, you're not, you being perfect and you being able to do that every single time is probably not even realistic. But if you've got little things that you do along the day, or if you've got little things that you like to do, like journaling or meditating, or if you have built into your routine some time that you take for yourself for reflection or just kind of checking in on yourself. And if you don't have that, I think that that can be helpful for daily momentum. Because if daily you have just a little bit of something, that you're taking that time to nurture new world you, right? You've processed the old, right? New world. We're stepping into new world. How am I going to show up? If it's true that my dreams are going to happen, how does that make me feel? How does that make me want to behave? What actions does that make me want to take? That's your plan. That's your path. And it's in you. You know what I mean? I can't tell you your plan. I can help you connect and clear the noise so you can get your own perfect plan, right? But you have it. And it's just taking that time, being patient enough and committed enough to yourself, right? Because here's the thing. Let's say the worst thing that can happen is you do this work and what you thought was going to happen doesn't happen. But the worst thing that can happen if you don't do this work is you're going to stay exactly where you are. And what's that going to be like when you're on your deathbed? You know what I'm saying? So this journey is not an easy journey to be on. And it's not a journey that even promises you anything specific in return other than a solid and intimate and deep relationship with yourself. And if that's the only thing that comes from this work, that's worth it to me, to be able to have that ability to self-regulate, to be able to love myself and connect to myself. When my mom died, if shit hits the fan and people are mad at me, I've still got me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've got goals. I've got these dreams and miracles that I want to manifest. I think that's fun. I love that. But that's not my reason for this. I'm not doing this for results because I know that that's not promised. What is promised, though, or from my experience and what I feel confident in saying is promised in this journey, is that deep and intimate relationship with yourself. And if that's the only thing you can achieve in this life before you die, I mean, I'm happy that I learned to love myself this deeply and know myself this deeply. So if I died tomorrow, I don't want to, obviously. I've got a bunch of stuff I'd like to do and more time to spend. But I know I'm at peace with myself because of this work. So just remembering it's that ego. That I don't know if you felt that energy of what I just said, but that's an intuition. That's an intuition message. That's not an egoic message. You know, so, but I'm not saying that I still get in my ego. I do. You know what I mean? But it's just coming back. It's realizing that we're in the flow. Yes, I love it. I love it. As a Leo does. You're so funny. So, okay, I've got to run, guys, before I'm late to pick up my kid. I hope you love this. I've got the replay, so people, if you want to see the replay and anybody else that you think might want to see it can see it, and anybody else that didn't be able to make it today. So, all right. So much love to you guys. I really hope that this was good for you. I enjoyed being here with you guys and hope that I was able to help as much as possible. And I'll see you guys later, okay? Bye.